Hello, this is the science of flat earthers. So, I thought I would talk a bit about this because this seems to be an internet phenomenon, and this was a voted on topic in regards to flat earth and what the heck is going on with that. So, I thought for a minute I would talk a little bit about the science of flat earthers, why they think the way that they do, because they exist for a reason, and it's important to kind of understand why they think this way. So, this is the science of flat earthers. So, what the actual F, right? The earth is round. It's not flat, it's round. And so the problem that we run into is, why are they thinking the way that they do? So we're talking about terms involving delusion. Are they delusional? Is there a conspiracy? Is there mental illness? Or is there a cult mentality involved with the flat earthers? So we have to kind of understand the history of flat earthers. Where did it really start from? Well, we've got Sam Rowbotham in the 1800s published a book called Zetetic Astronomy, Earth Not a Globe. That's the actual name of the book. And so in the 1800s, he actually published this particular book here. Now, here's the experiment he did saying that this was definitive proof that the earth is flat. Essentially, he took a 6-mile-long drainage canal, and he's like, I can see boats at the end. The earth is not flat. Well, here's the thing. Rowbotham held his telescope about 8 inches above the canal water, allowing refraction to interfere with the measurements. And so when he was looking through his telescope, he goes, I see boats. The earth is flat. And that's how he got his flat earth. But, you know, that's incorrect. He did his measurements wrong. So, Alfred Russel Wallace. He's a founder of modern biology. He was puzzled by flat earthers. He looked at this book and he's like, what the heck is this about? This is nonsense. And so there was an ad put out in a paper essentially saying, hey, there's a 500-pound bounty that for anybody who could disprove Rowbotham. They got this 500 gold British pounds. This was in 1870 using the same canal. And so the flat earthers were still insisting that they were right. So here's the setup for the Wallace experiment. The Wallace experiment had a telescope. There was a black band on a pole, 2 red discs. All of them were the same height as the telescope. The result, the 2 red discs looked higher. If they looked higher than the black band, which is the same height as the telescope, then that means the earth is round. So I have a rudimentary drawing for this to give you an idea of the sketch. So essentially, he had the telescope here, he had a pole here, and he had the discs in the center, all right? So each one of these, now it's not technically to scale, so I should say that each one of these are all the same height. Now, the second disc is about 4 feet lower than this disc here, all right? And so the black band here is supposed to be the same height as the telescope. So essentially what happened, if the earth is round, these discs will look higher than this black band because this top disc was the same height as the telescope. So Wallace did this experiment. Guess what happened? The flat earthers did not believe him and insisted they were right anyway. They were like, no, we're still right. You didn't do it right. So we have to kind of talk about the psychology of this. Why is it so important to be right? Why is it so important for these people to be right? Well, we have to look at this. There's a culture-driven thing that is this need to be right. Being right is mandated in our society, and it drives most acts of hatred. So we see war, we see violence, we see all of this from people saying, I'm right. So there's this cultural type of drive for us to be correct. Also, the educational system is rooted in right-wrong construct. So we don't see a lot of individuals, we don't see any praise for asking interesting questions. We see more of like, you got the wrong answer, and so if there's a wrong answer, there's embarrassment. So that's kind of counterproductive too. It's okay to be wrong, but that's not what our education system teaches. We have this first world competitive race for us to be right and correct and accurate. And so we have to be the best at our jobs, which means we got to be right. We got to do all of this. Being wrong is seen as a weakness. Okay, so we've got this inherent need to be right going on in our society. Also, is it delusional? It's not a delusion because multiple people believe this. So technically, the definition of a delusion is that somebody believes a particular thing that is not true, but it's just one person. It's not a group of people. Multiple people believe this. Now, there are some delusions that are associated with certain types of mental illness. That's one thing, but this isn't really a delusion. Is this a cult? Well, it's not a small group of people. There are a lot of people that believe this, and it's still strange. Yes, I give you that, you know. Is it a conspiracy? Yes, most likely. And this follows what we call system justification, where there's dominance, resistance, in-group bias, out-group antipathy, homophily, ethnocentrism, self-interest, and it also follows a bit of a political psychology. So we have this system justification that is part of what we can see in conspiracy theorists. So there's this group justification, and we see this a lot with various conspiracy theorists. So we have group justification. It's self-evidently true. Their eyes only. They're only going to believe what they think they see. It serves their own interests, all right? They develop these ideologies for their own justification. They have preferences for their own kind. There's hostile, prejudicial behavior to others outside of their belief system, and they're seeking for conflict, not resolution. They're not necessarily looking for the correct answers. They're just looking to cause problems. Here's the downside to this. Hold on to your butts. We will likely see more flat earthers as society becomes more threatened. So we see in the current administration a threat in society of, we'll see an increase of conspiracy theorists in general. There's research that's going on right now that kind of associates anytime societal constructs are threatened, there are more conspiracy theorists that pop up. So especially in this climate where we have all of these science deniers, we might very well see more flat earthers show up. Another thing to think about, social belonging is powerful. It's a human need. There's a need to actually belong to a group. And we see this in many common facets of society. So this is common. We see this in religion. We see this in clubs. We see this in groups. We see this with friends. We want to belong to a group. So this kind of fixes a particular thing. That's another fix for flat earthers. Now we need to talk a little bit about some current research going on involving two mental systems. We have one is suspicion and two is reflective. So we have our suspicion system and we have a reflective system. And our suspicious system is run by the amygdala. So it's autonomic. So there's a lot of different things that go on there that you're not thinking about. And that kind of deals with our primal aspects and our fear centers. All right, so what this means is if we're in the woods and we hear a twig break, our first question is, will this hurt me? All right, will this hurt me? And then our reflective system kicks in, and that's our rationality and our reason that goes, hey, no, this won't hurt us. It's just a squirrel. It's okay. It didn't sound like a big twig stick snapping. So that kind of gives us our rationality and our reason as to will this hurt me or not. Now the problem is if the suspicion system becomes overactive, that's where reflective doesn't really keep up. So this could be going on with flat earthers, and this is associated a bit with conspiracy theory too. If too much suspicion leads to irrationality if the reflective system doesn't kick in. So you've got this part of your brain where you got the suspicion activity happening and our reflective system doesn't really kick in, that's going to become a problem at some point. So the bottom line is flat earthers are irrational. They're irrational. You're not going to be able to rationalize with them. You cannot rationalize with the irrational. They're not going to listen to you. They're not going to accept evidence. They may be incapable of accepting evidence. They are going to have constant suspicion. There's a need to be right, and they want that social belonging they have within their group. So my advice to you, don't waste your time arguing on the internet with them. Don't give them a voice. They're not going away. They might even increase in number, and you may be encouraging them. So what can you do? What can you do in this era of alternative facts and this war on science information? Promote correct science info. Check your sources and be positive. So that's what you can do to help fight this current climate of, the war on science, it seems. So that's all I have on the science of flat earthers. I'm not saying their perspective is correct. It's not. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. But it's important to understand they exist for a reason and why they think the way that they do. And it's important to promote correct information and not necessarily engage with a flat earther. You're not going to change their mind. They're not going to accept evidence. And there's no point of engaging with somebody who is not going to believe anything you say. They're just not going to. And they may be outright incapable of accepting this new evidence anyway. So the way you can go about this by talking about the earth being round is to promote correct information without actually engaging with them. So, all of my videos are up here. I also post them on YouTube. And all of the topics that I talk about on this show are viewer generated. So I'm on Twitter and I post a poll there. And all of the topics that are up for discussion and for voting are all viewer suggestions. And so the one that wins each week, that's the one I talk about. So I'm on Facebook at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time for live interaction. I'm also on Periscope at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, so you can interact with me there as well. And I post all of my videos on YouTube. You can find me here on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter. If you have questions, I'm always available to answer them for you. I don't always know the answers, but I will find a way to at least direct you to the correct information, so you know you're getting the right information, and that's how it goes, and that's what I do. So I will end with this. This has been the science of flat earthers. So there's a reason why they think the way that they do, and so it's important to promote the correct information in order to get that out there. And I'm Scientist Mel. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you around. Bye.